Available by calling 484-648-2808. For late-breaking news, weather, sports, and traffic, sometimes before we can even get it live on the air, make sure you like our award-winning Kutztown University Radio Facebook page or on Twitter at @KU Radio. From KUR News, I'm Mike Regensberger.
He fires, and it is good for a touchdown. It's gone! And Giroux's got it! And the Sixers have scored 9 in a row. Are you kidding me?
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Tyler Werner Show right here on Kutztown Radio on Talking Philadelphia Sports, coming off of a huge win in Indianapolis last night for the Eagles. What many people, including myself, might call a stolen win, as the Philadelphia Eagles on a last-second field goal, last few minutes. They wear down the clock and win with a field goal, even after the Colts ice the kicker. Very dramatic game and a very dramatic week 2 in the NFL to begin with. It's one of the most dramatic weeks in the NFL I can ever remember, and a lot of that has to do with last week with the Ray Rice situation, details continuing to come out of that. You have the Adrian Peterson issue that came out last week. I mean, you have, and then you had like all kinds of interesting football games in the NFL this past week, which we'll talk about. As we got a lot to talk about on today's show. But yeah, I mean, big win last night for the Philadelphia Eagles, an exciting game. And you saw some better play from Nick Foles, which I think was something that I called for that last week on the show. I said Nick Foles has to play better this game. There's no way I would expect him to play as bad as he did in that first game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he came out and he played a decent game.
Let's make some noise, come on!
So let's make some noises. Right, the Eagles are off to a 2-0 start for the NFL season, and of course they got division rivals Washington coming in. The Washington Redskins coming in to play the Eagles. Most likely with Deshaun Jackson now, as it sounds like, but not with RG3, as RG3 went down in his division game, in his game this past week against the Jaguars, and of course, so now I guess the Redskins are hopeful he's going to return later in the season. But I mean, it didn't seem to really matter that they lost RG3 and Deshaun Jackson in that game, because they laid a big beat down on the Jaguars, scoring 41 points and having their way with the Jaguars. You look over in Dallas, the Cowboys beat Tennessee after Tennessee had a maybe a promising week 1. I mean, Tennessee beat the Chiefs first week, but the Cowboys, I think, maybe brought the Titans a little more back down to earth. And the Giants just, I don't know, continue to look pretty bad this year. They get beat by the Cardinals. The Cardinals, they're missing Carson Palmer, their starting quarterback, to begin with, and along with a laundry list of other players. But still, I mean, the Cardinals handled the Giants, so I mean, right now, as it stands at week 2, you have the Eagles still on top of the NFC East. So I'm standing at 2-0, and essentially, I guess stealing a game in a sense, because I mean, a game that many people, you go through the schedule, including myself, had that Indianapolis game as a loss. Now, I mean, if you want to think a little more recently, I mean, they were coming off of the loss to Denver last week. They almost made a comeback to tie it up against Denver. Although I said last week that I expect the Eagles to put up points in this game and to make it close. maybe for it to be somewhat of a shootout, and end up 33 points for the Eagles, but 36 for the Colts. Maybe winning by a field goal, and Fleming, basically straight up agreed with that score. I think right down to the exact point values, and it didn't necessarily turn out that way. It actually, ironically, the Eagles were the ones that got the win by 3 points. Obviously, this game had its controversial calls late in the game, certainly, which we'll talk about. We'll get down a little more into detail in the throughout the show. But I think the bottom line is that when the Eagles needed to make a play, or they needed to make a big stop on defense, they did, and I wasn't necessarily counting on that, especially given that the Colts were they were up by 7, they were in control of the game, and late in the game, I mean they were up by 14 at the half, and of course there was the streak, I guess you could say, of throughout Andrew Luck's young career here in the NFL, that some people just listening to other sports radio shows were using as a way to predict this game. The streak was that coming off of a loss in the regular season, Andrew Luck was 10-0. And so obviously coming into this game, they're coming off the loss to the Denver Broncos. And so up to this point, Andrew Luck was undefeated coming off of a loss, and essentially you had the end of that streak. And some people were either predicting that, oh well, Andrew Luck never loses after coming off of a loss, so he's not but then there were other maybe more optimistic Eagle fans that were saying they're going to end this streak. All streaks like this come to an end, and of all teams, it's going to be against the Philadelphia Eagles. On the road in that loud Indianapolis stadium against Andrew Luck, coming off of a loss against the Denver Broncos. And it didn't quite look that way. I mean, the entire first half, it was just, it was full of Eagles, the Eagles having problems in the red zone. I mean, they were moving the football down the field pretty well, and then they would get into the red zone. I mean, they'd get to the 4, they'd get to the 6, they get to the 1 with a full set of downs, and it seems like, between maybe the play calling of Chip Kelly or just the team in general, it just seems like they'd go down, they'd have like a total brain fart in the red zone. They got a couple field goals early in that game. Of course, Kobe Parkey did miss a field goal, a 38-yarder, I believe it was. So that was a bit of a bad situation there. So there were some drop touchdown passes from multiple players on this team. The Reds in that first half they definitely left a lot of points on the board. Between a missed field goal, bad drops, and just maybe not the best play calling at the time. The Eagles were like they were against Jacksonville. They were slow in the first quarter to put points on the board, or the first half, I should say. But that wasn't, at least this time. They weren't turning the ball over. Foles looked better. Foles had one interception in this game, although I think it was more of a great defensive play by the cornerback, and Jeremy Maclin just not, the defender just seemingly wanting the ball more than Jeremy Maclin did. And Foles wasn't perfect in this game. Foles was decent. He was, he had over 300 yards. But then again, a lot of those yards would come with the yards after the catch of Darren Sproles, who this game, I mean, he turned in another MVP-like performance. Last week, against the Jaguars, I kind of said how, he kind of broke the game open for the Eagles in the middle of that game after the second half. Aside from making some nice punt returns and this and that, I mean, him in the screen game with Chip Kelly, I mean, is really paying off. I mean, he had over 180 yards total in this game. A lot of that coming from these screen plays. And, LaShawn McCoy, he for the most part, he carried the load with the rushing. I mean, McCoy had about 80 yards on, a little over 20 carries. McCoy getting used in the passing game as well. I think really Indianapolis was geared to defend against LaShawn McCoy. And, I mean, they stuffed him at times. And again, I mean, the Eagles are playing with a couple backup linemen, one of them being a third stringer, considering that in the first game, I mean, Alan Barbie went down, who's originally, replacing Lane Johnson. So, I mean, the running game, at least, as far as handing it off to McCoy, I mean, McCoy made, some of his usual magical plays where, it seemed like, there was going to be no gain or a loss in the play, and he, maybe gets 15, 20 yards and, puts the team in a great position to move down the field or score points. So, not a field day here from LaShawn McCoy, but, making the plays, making some very key plays that counted. Darren Sproles right now, though, is making making big plays, and, you see the Saints now sitting at 0-2, getting rid of Darren Sproles, and, you start to wonder if maybe the New Orleans Saints regret that a little bit. But, I mean, Sproles at the end of the day, maybe he's, really one of one of those Chip Kelly guys that, Chip was just maybe in the offseason, maybe after that playoff loss to the Saints last year, just salivating over the idea of having Darren Sproles in his offensive schemes. And, you saw another, first game against Jacksonville was, impressive from him. And, once again, I mean, maybe this game even more impressive out of Darren Sproles. Look for him to, continue to be a, focal point of this offense. Unlike, for the most part, maybe this wide receiving core, I feel like Riley Cooper thus far in this season is, has been a no-show, and I'm not too surprised. I mean, this is maybe as Richard Sherman would say, this is a mediocre set of wide receivers. I mean, Riley Cooper, again, dropping an open touchdown pass, that should have been caught. Jeremy, Brent Selleck dropped one that, he normally wouldn't drop. That could have been a touchdown pass. Jeremy Maclin, had a drop. Jordan Matthews had a couple drops as well. So, that's a bit unfortunate. But, Zach Ertz, again, another solid outing. I mean, he had 4 catches for 86 yards. So, he could be a big play tight end down the seam. And, I think he's continuing to come into his own. I mean, he's only targeted 6 times in this first game, but, those are some big plays that, Zach Ertz was out there making. And, Selleck, not doing a whole lot as far as receptions go in this game. I mean, again, he dropped that one pass that could have been a touchdown. But, he did help, he did throw some key blocks on the Indianapolis Colts defense that helped guys like Darren Sproles, break open some of those big plays. So we're already running into the first break almost here. Now, the way to get into the show today is Facebook.com/Tyler Werner Show, or at Tyler Werner Show on Twitter. Now we again, because last week we had the whole thing. We're in the process of getting our phone lines fixed in the production room. Although, I got an email from Mike Regensberger earlier on in the day about we can actually take calls. It would just be on a different number. So if you want to call in, maybe share your thoughts on this big Eagles win, you can do that at 610-683-4058. Slightly different number then. Again 610-683-4058. And I can just over here I guess put the call straight on the air when the phone rings. Now, since there would be no screening process, hopefully nobody, dials this number and, it's the wrong number or anything. Then I'll have to press the delay button, I guess, and because we can't, if somebody prank calls us or for whatever reason they would want to do that, or, is unintentionally on the airwaves, I guess we'll have to hit the delay button and, I guess get the call out of here and, just move on. But again, it's 610-683-4058. And you can, you can come on and discuss this big Eagles win here, in detail or, moving forward. Amongst the other issues that we're going to get into today on today's edition of the Tyler Werner Show. And that is right here on Kutztown Radio. We'll be right back after this.
Email any suggestions to kur@kutztown.edu. Complaints, concerns, questions, whatever you may be thinking at the time, it's kur@kutztown.edu.
If you're 65 or older, you can get help paying for prescriptions with PACE or PACE-Net. I'm State Senator Judy Schwank with a Pennsylvania Moment. Married couples can qualify with an income as high as $31,500. Individuals can qualify with an income as high as $23,500. Contact the State Department of Aging at 800-225-7223. I'm State Senator Judy Schwank with a Pennsylvania Moment.
It's 6:21 right here on the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio. Big Eagles win last night. I know Fleming over there, you told me that you caught the end of that game. Obviously, there's a bit of controversy down the stretch with those. Well, obviously, first you had the call, I guess the missed call that 9 out of 10 times I guess would be called holding on the defense. Brandon Boykin got away with one there. What did you think of that play there at the end?
I really don't know what to think. Yeah, it was a blown call, but we've seen plenty of blown calls in the beginning of this season. I mean, it was lucky for the Eagles, but yeah, missed calls are kind of hard to judge or even comment on because one side's going to be really ticked off no matter what. So I'm just going to say that it was really lucky for the Eagles, and I'm happy for them that they won. But yeah, I don't really know what to say about it.
Yeah. Now, I mean, after that play, I mean, you definitely saw an outraged Andrew Luck. Although, in the post-game interview, he downplayed it. He just thought, that doesn't matter. The bottom line is I threw an interception and this and that. And yeah, I mean, it's maybe inconsistent right now too. I mean, they were calling stuff like that in the preseason very often. I guess, I think a lot of that has to do with, the referees in the preseason. They wanted to set a tone in the regular season. And, I don't know, maybe they missed it there. They just totally missed it and didn't call it. I don't know. But, nevertheless, they got away with a lucky call there. And, fortunately, the Eagles would take advantage of that. Now, of course, after that, on the next drive then for the Eagles offensively, there was that I guess I put in quotation marks here, horse collar tackle, which, it wasn't really a horse collar tackle because, the defender didn't have LaShawn McCoy by the horse collar, really. There was a play last week that was in the Jacksonville Jaguars game, of course, for those who watched the game, that was called against Fletcher Cox, ironically, on the Eagles defense. A very similar takedown there where, it looks like the tackle has the effect of a horse collar tackle, but it's not, technically it's not. I mean, Fleming, what did you think of that play, with the, these referees, they're interpreting it as a horse collar tackle. I mean,
Well, I agree it wasn't exactly a horse collar by the book. I think they're more worried about how the running back goes down, because the way he went down, it could have gone bad very easily, like an ankle snapping or something. So I think the refs are more concerned with the player's safety than where they grabbed onto.
Right, yeah. Now, there's, you wonder if maybe they're going to start looking at these plays a little more because, by definition, both this play that, that happened in the game last night and the week before with Fletcher Cox on the Eagles, because by definition, the defender in the, whichever situation, he didn't have neither the jersey collar or the literal, I guess, horse collar of the shoulder pads. So, you wonder now if maybe they're going to start looking at that a little more carefully. But, I guess it has the same effect as a horse collar tackle, and that's what the referees are seeing. And again, I mean, football, sometimes it's really tough in real-time situations for the referees to get it right. Then again, sometimes it just looks like the referees are totally blind. But, in this situation here, the Eagles, they benefited from the way this call went here because, by definition, that wasn't a horse collar tackle. And even though LaShawn McCoy went down that way, fortunately he didn't end up with an injury there. So, Eagles, definitely they benefited from the calls a little bit there, but at the end of the day, they sit at 2-0 right now, and that's obviously to the delight of Eagle fans. I mean, that's not a game that I had as a win on the schedule, and as many other realists I'm sure didn't as well. Now, of course, I had Andrew Luck and Reggie Wayne on the on-air fantasy competition that we started last week on this show, of course. Andrew Luck, he put up three touchdowns. Obviously, he had that interception that, barring the, without that missed call, I guess maybe that interception doesn't happen. But they actually, the Colts actually ran the ball rather well. They had Ahmad Bradshaw out there, definitely putting up some yards, and they had Trent Richardson as well putting up some yards. Although, the Eagles, I guess, held Andrew Luck to under 200 yards. Although, it seemed like whenever Andrew Luck wasn't getting hurried, it seemed like, they had their way with the Eagles secondary, which again, I'm not surprised. That's one of the weak spots of this team, obviously, perhaps the weakest spot. And, couple pass breakups here and there, a couple batted balls definitely by the defensive line. Connor Barwin, that's like trademark Connor Barwin. And of course, Fletcher Cox in this game making a key defensive play. Obviously causing that fumble later in the game, and giving the Eagles great field position, to put some more points on the board. So obviously, Fletcher Cox continues to look strong this season. Now, Michael Kendricks and I have Michael Kendricks went down this game, and I have an update here that the injury, supposedly that he had last night, he had this minor calf injury. It looked like he could have been out for quite some time, but it looks like, he says he is fine after leaving the Eagles, or after leaving Eagles win over Colts. Let me read through this a little bit here. The Eagles defense went through a major scare on Monday night in their 30-27 win over Indianapolis when Kendricks had to lead the game with a calf injury. Although he was walking with a slight limp after the game, Kendricks was clear in easing his concern amongst Eagles fans that the injury was not a serious one. He said it's nothing serious. He went on to clarify that the calf injury he suffered that made him miss the majority of the second half on Monday night was just a spasm, and that he should be just fine heading forward. Assuming Kendricks is correct, that is a major bullet dodge for the Eagles, obviously. So, now, you gotta agree, a major bullet dodge, because, Kendricks went out in this game, and they had to trot Casey Matthews out there, and as John Gruden was saying, that's a big drop off. From Michael Kendricks, who perhaps could be a Pro Bowler this year. Him going down, they had to bring out Casey Matthews out there. Casey Matthews, I guess, is basically only on the roster because he's mainly for his being a special teams guy. So here, the Eagles, they did dodge a bullet, and as far as Michael Kendricks, only having a minor injury here in this situation, because you could see out there, Casey Matthews was missing some tackles, and definitely late in that game, there were some plays that they took advantage of over Casey Matthews, but fortunately, the defense, for the most part, held up strong late in the game, and they didn't give away too much. First half, the entire first half, and into much of the third quarter even, the Colts felt like they were in control of this game the majority of the time. I looked to, in the middle of the second half, there was about 6.5 minutes left, I think, in the half, and the Colts get the ball back. And they just, they were moving the ball down the field. They were taking time off the clock, and, they go down and put points on the board, and, the Eagles have no time left in the half really to do anything, and so they just run out the clock there at that point. And obviously for the Colts this is good. They started out first of all getting the opening kickoff, and they end the second half, or they end the first half by running out the clock there, running out almost half of that second quarter there. So, the Colts felt like they were in control of this game for much of the early going. And, the Eagles, that first series for the Eagles defense looked promising. They forced the Colts to go 3-and-out right away. But, then in some of the ensuing drives, the Colts, unsurprisingly to me, would start to take apart this Eagles secondary a little bit and run the ball. Now, before we continue with more Eagles talk, we have to, as we always do here on the Tyler Werner Show, we have to get to the call out of the week.
It's time for Tyler Werner's call out of the week.
I just think somebody owes us an explanation, that's all. What's the matter with you? Loser! You're a loser! Are you kidding me?
Well, I have a microphone, and you don't.
So you will listen to every word I have to say!
Yes, and this week on the Tyler Werner call out of the week, last week we called out, Roger Goodell and how he, maybe it's mishandling of this whole Ray Rice situation that continues to come out. But this week, obviously came out late last week, the Adrian Peterson situation where he abused one of his children. Now it's bad enough already, I guess, that Adrian Peterson has, he has like 7 or 8 kids with, different women. I don't know, however, but the bottom line is he's a bunch of kids that he can't really be a true father figure to, I guess you could say, with all these women. And, he was basically indicted for what they call reckless harm to his 4-year-old child. At the time that this happened, he was 4 years old. And, of course, last night, coincidentally after the... let me backtrack a little bit. The Vikings deactivated him for this, what came out late last week, which I agree with. And of course, now Fleming, for your case, I had to then go to you and say, oh, now you got to pick another running back for our on-air fantasy competition. And you went with Arian Foster. So, of course, right away I had to think, already there's a monkey wrench in that. But anyhow, getting back to the issue at hand here, Adrian, let me get this article up too, because Adrian Peterson, he reportedly admitted then to abusing his child, and I gotta. We gotta get to the details here of this, because it's it's a bit disturbing. Obviously, if you've seen the photos, I actually didn't see the photos, but apparently, he heard it. I don't know. He took a tree branch, I guess. He took the leaves off and left welts on this child's leg and this and that. Let me read through this article a bit here. He was indicted today. Last week for injury to a child. Reportedly that he admitted that he hit his 4-year-old son with a switch, causing cuts and bruises. Now, in Houston, they reported that Peterson told police that he gave his son a whooping in a May incident in Spring, Texas. According to the report, Peterson said that he did it to punish the child for pushing another one of Adrian Peterson's children while they were playing a video game. Now, first, let's stop right there. He pushes, the child pushes another while playing a video game. That doesn't mean that the parent then goes to proceed to deliver this kind of whooping, I guess, to a child like that. Kids are going to be kids sometimes. Yeah, you teach them not to push one another while playing video games. Obviously you're going to have stuff like that between kids growing up. As a young child, I'll admit myself, as a young child, I'd push my brothers. I do stuff like that, but my parents didn't proceed to beat me or anything like that. And I guess my brothers, knowing they couldn't retaliate like that, being that they were several years older than me, I guess kind of knew that as well. Not they could, but anyways, one kid pushing another, that's no excuse for the parent to proceed, to do that to their child. That's not going to teach anything, first of all. And again, you're welcome to share your thoughts on this whole situation. As we'll get into more about it throughout the show. It's 610-683-4058. It's a slightly different number, as I would normally say on here, but again, that's due to the usual phone lines still being worked out in the production room. So we got the on-air line that you can call, and of course Facebook.com/Tyler Werner Show, or at Tyler Werner Show on Twitter. Those are the social media ways to get in on this. Again, before we hit the next break, we've, as a society, we've basically evolved to a point where, no longer can you abuse your child, let alone what Adrian Peterson did here, with this, and he admitted to doing it. So, the Vikings, they, after this came out last week, they made the right choice and they deactivated him for their game against the Patriots. But now last night, I think it was, I think they reinstated him to play yesterday or early yesterday, I guess, and which I'll get into that whole decision a little later, because I don't want to get into it now and take up time and push back the next break. But so the Vikings reinstate him, and then of course last night it broke that now Adrian Peterson is being accused of abusing another one of his children, and given that he admitted to abusing the one, and the way he abused it, I mean, it's not hard to believe that he quite possibly may have abused yet another one of his children. So I mean, what do the Vikings do from here on if they, I don't know. Maybe what does the NFL start doing here in the midst of this whole Ray Rice situation, and now you got this with Adrian Peterson. What do they do? I mean, that's the bottom line. 610-683-4058 is the number to get in. We'll be right back on the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio here, just after these messages.
It's Telescopic Topics, a look into the world above us.
Have you ever wondered where we came from, or how we even got here in the first place? Hi, my name is Samantha Hensley. It all started with the formation of our solar system. You may have heard of many different theories as to how our solar system came to be. The one I will be discussing with you today is the solar nebula theory. There are 5 different steps or processes that occur within this theory. The first part is the interstellar gas cloud. This cloud is in a regular shape and contains all of the elements that make up our solar system. The cloud then collapses and rotates to make what we call a solar nebula, which is the second process that occurs. As the rotation increases, the solar nebula flattens out, much similar to the spinning of a pizza crust. Mass also gets pulled towards the center of the nebula and creates a protostar, which eventually becomes our sun. Next, planets start to form through 2 different processes: condensation and accretion. Condensation occurs when a gas cools and its molecules stick together to form a liquid. The condensed drops then begin the process of accretion, or growing together into bigger pieces. Think of accretion as how someone makes a snowman. You keep adding more and more snow to a snowball so it can be big enough to be the snowman's body. Once these clusters of mass become large enough, they can be called planetesimals, or small, spherical, planet-like bodies of mass. The last and final process is called differentiation. The planets begin to differentiate, or separate its mass. The heavier things sink to the core of the planet, while the lighter things rise to the surface of the planet. To recap, the 5 different steps or processes that occur within this theory are the interstellar gas cloud, the solar nebula, condensation, accretion, and differentiation. Hope you all now have a better understanding of what the solar nebula theory is all about.
Telescopic Topics, a look into the world above us. Stay tuned to KUR for more telescopic topics, and for more information, or to hear this segment again, click on the Telescopic Topics icon on the KUR website at www.kutztown.edu/KUR. Telescopic Topics is a production of the KU Physical Sciences Department and is recorded by KU astronomy students in the studios of KUR. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
6:43 right here on the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio. Coming off of obviously a huge Eagles win last night, 30-27. Eagles running down the clock at the end to get the game-winning 36-yard field goal. Obviously, a bit of a comical ending, I guess, in a sense. Given the Colts called timeout as the Eagles basically were kicking the ball. They iced the kicker here, and everybody was running out in the field, assuming the game was over. They had I could see on the one shot they had they even had the Chip Kelly stay in front of a camera ready to interview him, and then they said wait, and the referee said the game's not over yet. So so that was so obviously everybody get off the field and line it up again, and they would Cody Parkey once again puts it through the uprights and wins the game. Sort of redeems himself after that missed field goal earlier in the game of about the same distance there. So fortunately he did not succumb to the pressure there that was put on him to win that game down at the very end, away at Indianapolis against Andrew Luck and the Indianapolis Colts, who they're out to an 0-2 start, but I don't I think the Colts will down the stretch play better. There's a lot of surprising teams out there that are out to 0-2 starts, among them the New Orleans Saints, another one. So, I don't know, the Kansas City Chiefs, who were 11-5 last year, a playoff team, they're out to an 0-2 start. So, there's some surprising records out there, albeit 2 games into the season, which, we'll get to a little more in the next hour when we go around the league. Now, I mentioned in the last segment, I brought up our on-air fantasy team, game between Fleming over in the production room and I. Now, again, of course, the first time we do this, like I said earlier, a monkey wrench is thrown in the whole thing when Fleming picks Adrian Peterson. Well, first of all, if I remember correctly, I picked Marshawn Lynch, and you Fleming were like, "Oh, you weasel, you," or something like that. That's who I was going to pick, and so you took Adrian Peterson, and then he gets deactivated, rightfully so, and I guess now he's reinstated. But then I had to shoot you a text on I guess Friday it was or whenever, and so I said I guess you might want to pick somebody else, because obviously you don't want a goose egg there in the running back column, for when a guy's not even playing. So you went with Arian Foster, and he gave you 12 points, which is pretty good. He had a touchdown, and he had a yardage bonus. So things like that. You were put in a tough position, really, after that. Not having Adrian Peterson on hand, you had to make a replacement pick, and the score actually came out pretty close in this first time. You put up 42 points. The Broncos' defense is a key thing in this, because, like, for instance, I had the Texans defense. They gave up 16 points or whatever, but because they came up with 4 turnovers, that each turnover the defense gets, that's 3 points, so that helped me out. The way the score turned out was 43-42 in favor of me. And now Andrew Luck, he threw an interception last night, which takes away 3 points. So who knows? He turned the ball. If he would have turned the ball over one more time in that, that would have shaken everything up there. So a good, a close game first week between Fleming and I. And again, you were a bit handicapped. You had to, pick another running back with the whole Adrian Peterson situation. Now, both of my wide receivers actually didn't get me anything. Reggie Wayne, he had 30 yards or whatever, but other than that, he didn't score any touchdowns or anything. AJ Green, now, I guess he suited up for the game and was out there, but then they just didn't play him at all because of his toe or something. I don't know. It's one of those things like, back in the day, I mean, they'd probably, a toe injury. I don't know. Maybe AJ Green was a little soft there. I don't know. Maybe the organization was really being cautious with him, but so. I didn't get anything on my receivers there, but Jimmy Graham had a big day, so that helped me out. And again, the Texans' defense really helped me out here as well. So I guess we should start picking our teams for next week. Now, again, you can't pick the same player 2 weeks in a row. Now, whether it's you or I picking running back first, I guess Adrian Peterson is gonna suit up for this week. Although I'm not gonna pick him either way. I mean that's up to. I guess we'll see who they play. But I guess as of now, Adrian Peterson's fair game for what it's worth. If you have any interest in picking him, I don't know. But obviously, I'm not gonna pick him, and I may not even pick him the rest of the year. I'll get to more on that later. But albeit, you lost by 1 point, one measly point, again, I mean, it could go either way any given week. So you'll get the first pick this week, Fleming. Again, you get to pick the first position here and the player, and then I must pick the player of the same position here. So you can go ahead.
I'm going to go with quarterback Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning, all right. Now, last week you had Rodgers. He was pretty decent. Peyton Manning, big rematch this week of Super Bowl teams.
Yeah, it should be exciting.
Yeah. Now, this game, I think it is in Seattle. Of course, Seahawks coming off that loss against the Chargers. Now let me get up the whole matchup page here so I can pick my quarterback. Now last week I picked. Of course I picked. Who did I pick? Andrew Luck. I picked Andrew Luck for last night. So obviously I can't pick him this week. This internet is getting me off track here. Let me get the game page up so I can see who's playing here. I don't know what happened. I hate how sometimes you have the score page up and then you don't know how it goes away. But anyways, all right, let's go to week 3, not week 2. All right, now I'm on track here. Let's see. Foles at home. He has the Redskins. Drew Brees has the Vikings at home. I mean, I might have to go. You got the Patriots at home against the Raiders. Now you know what? I'm gonna go Drew Brees against the Vikings. They have I don't think there's any way they start out 0-3. And I think Drew Brees is bound to have a big week at home against the Vikings. The Saints are good at home, so yeah, I'll go with Drew Brees as my QB. And now it leaves it up to the next pick, which this time I'll pick the position, and I'm gonna go defense here. I'm gonna go with the Cincinnati Bengals defense, who host the Titans this week. Titans look like they came back to earth last week, down to earth, and the Bengals, they really held the Falcons down to what was it? I think they only gave up 6 points. They held Matt Ryan down and Julio Jones to basically nothing. So See, I'll go out of order there a little bit, and went right down to defense. I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals. So now it's your pick for defense.
All right, I'm kind of in a toss-up here between the Panthers and the Patriots. I'm leaning towards the Patriots because they're facing Oakland at home.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I'm going to go with Patriots defense on this one.
Yeah, anytime somebody's playing the Raiders, I mean, it's probably a safe pick to pick their defense.
Yeah.
So yeah, that should probably serve you pretty well there. And now you get to pick the next position.
Okay, let's do wide receivers, and give me a second here. I'm going to go Jordy Nelson from Green Bay.
Oh, he's coming off a huge week. He's actually on my ESPN.com fantasy team, and he was one of the keys to my victory this past weekend. Yeah, that's
hopefully he does the same for me.
Yeah, he had a field day. He had like, what was it? He had like over 200 yards. Yeah, they could get in a shootout with the Lions. Now for my wide receiver pick. Of course, last week neither of my receivers, did enough for, to, however you want to put it, to get any points for me. So, you went Jordy Nelson. I'll go Calvin Johnson this week. We'll have two receivers on, opposing teams competing against each other here. You went Calvin Johnson last week. He didn't get any touchdowns or anything, so I'm thinking this week that'll change, and he'll get he'll at least put some points on the board for the Lions. Although I think the Packers are the better team there, so yeah, I'll go Calvin Johnson, and that'll conclude this, I guess, first half of our picks, and we'll get to the rest of the picks a little later on in the show as we do. We'll pick the rest of the teams. So yeah, there you have it. First three picks there. Yeah, so we'll move on from there. We only got a few minutes before I guess halftime, you could call it, here on the Tyler Werner Show. So you know what? Let's shift gears a little bit here, and talk a little Phillies for the first time in like a month, or over a month. Part of that being because I didn't do a show for a few weeks at the end of the summer, but other than that, there's been nothing really talk worthy when it comes to the the Philadelphia Phillies. So I don't know if you heard about this, Fleming, the other night when Jonathan Papelbon, Phillies pitcher, he blew a save, and he gave up several runs late in the game, and the crowd was booing him, and he proceeded to grab his crotch area and look into the Phillies fan base as this was going on. This was now I have an article that I want to get up here so I can maybe look into the details a little more of this, and get my thoughts together. Now, having revealed what I just said for those who didn't hear it, of course, I think rather suitably the title of the article here from SB Nation is Jonathan Papelbon puts his finger on the problem. So now it's, the tagline here is, if Jonathan Papelbon can't escape Philadelphia by chewing off his own leg, he might as well have tried grabbing his own crotch. So there you go. I mean, already we're off to a good start here. Now, let's see. Let's get down past the intro here. We've all heard the story of the animal so desperate to escape a trap that it chews off its own leg. On Sunday, Phillies closer Jonathan Papelbon attempted exactly that. Now it's one thing. I think he said after in the post-game interview. And by the way, for those who didn't know, I mean, Papelbon got suspended 12 games for this gesture as well. So, he claimed. I guess he tried to claim that my 4-year-old son or something like that does it all the time. But he looked at I guess when this is obviously a conversation turned awkward here, but I guess when you have to make an adjustment, I guess you could say, normally you don't look around at, I guess, at other people, and if Jonathan Papelbon legitimately had to make an adjustment, I guess is what we're gonna term it as. You don't look into the Phillies fan base, while they're booing. I mean, that. Obviously the fans are outraged here, and I guess if you're going to make an adjustment like that, you're going to maybe you'll just like look at the floor or something, or at the ground. I don't know, but you don't look at other people, I guess, when you're going to do something like that. And I think it's pretty obvious what Jonathan Papelbon was doing here, and I think it's obvious that he wants to play for a contending team, and he's obvious. He's known, and again, I mean, he's known for doing stuff like this in the past. I mean, of course, what was it, back in May or April or whatever it was, he like intentionally passed gas in the locker room in front of Derek Gunn, and Papelbon has a history of being known for this kind of stuff, and gets suspended for 12 games. And, again, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious what he was doing here. And, making an adjustment, I don't think was necessarily much of an accurate statement here. I wouldn't, I think he knows exactly what he's doing. He's looking into the crowd while he was doing this. And, obviously the league took it as a shot at the fans, essentially. And, suspended him 12 games. So, not like anything is really riding on this Phillies season at this point anyways. And, not like we're not totally engulfed in this Eagles season that's going on in football and everything else that is going on in the world of Philadelphia sports. So anyways, 610-683-4058 is the way to get in today if you want to. Or at facebook.com/Tyler Werner Show, or at Tyler Werner Show on Twitter. It's halftime here on the Tyler Werner Show, and we will be right back after this.
Gold Microphone Award-winning college radio in northeastern Berks County is KUR Kutztown, 1670 AM, on your TV by tuning to Service Electric Berks Channel 24 or 99, Service Electric Lehigh Channel 266, or Berks Hometown Utilicom Channel 28, online anywhere in the world at kur.kutztown.edu, on your smartphone by using an application like TuneIn, or on any phone, cell or landline simply by dialing 610-465-7860. Gold Microphone Award-winning college radio in northeastern Berks County is the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR Kutztown.
KUR can also be heard in select campus buildings like the MSU, Rickenbach, Stratton, Rec Center, and Keystone at 88.3 FM.
Nominated for Best College Radio Station at an institution with under 10,000 enrollment and winner of Best Use of Social Media, your news leader in northeastern Berks County, KUR Kutztown.
The KUR News Time is the top of the hour. I'm Mike Regensberger. Good news for community college students wanting to transfer here to KU. On Monday, the presidents of Reading Area Community College, or RAC, and KU signed a reverse transfer agreement, meaning that students who transfer from RAC to KU can now count KU credits toward a RAC associate degree or credit certificate. The official signing occurred in the River Room of RAC's Yoakum Library. Students must first complete 30 credits at RAC to qualify. If this sort of arrangement sounds familiar, it is. The agreement, the Reading Eagle reports, is very similar to one KU made with Montgomery County Area Community College, or Montco, just back last month. Checking KUR sports, members of the Kutztown University baseball team received a once-in-a-lifetime experience on Monday. In honor of its recent conference championship, the Golden Bears were invited to the State Capitol building, given a tour of the facilities, and recognized during the afternoon session of Senate. Special thanks to KUBears.com for the support, where you can read full details on Monday's historic visit. Monsoon Mike says, oh my gosh, this weather is absolutely amazing. Sunshine today, tomorrow, the day after, the day after, the day after, the day after. I don't really see any rain until maybe Monday of next week.
Join the mirth and merriment of the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair as His Majesty Henry VIII supremely reigns over the revelry Saturdays and Sundays, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. through October 26th. Advanced discount tickets at PARentfair.com. Experience the fantasy of the glorious Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair.
The Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair, a kingdom for everyone.
Turnpike exit 266. Tickets at PARentfair.com. Long live the king!
Huzzah!
Erasure. Live in the Violet Flame Tour. September 21st, 8 p.m., the Santander Performing Arts Center. Reserve seats are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Charged by phone, Ticketmaster retail locations in the Santander Arena box office. For more info, 610-898-SHOW or log on to slpconcerts.com. Produced by SLP Concerts.
Potts Hot Dogs is pleased to announce the grand opening of Potts U Saturday, September 20th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Customers joining in the inauguration at 100 North Constitution Boulevard in Kutztown will receive one free hot dog. The ribbon-cutting ceremony will take place at high noon, hosted by ambassadors from Northeast Berks County Chamber of Commerce. The dogs start at $1.60, keeping it affordable for everyone at Potts. Potts U is open Monday through Wednesday, 10:30 to 9, and late night Thursday through Saturday until 3 a.m. Free delivery is also available by calling 484-648-2808. For late-breaking news, weather, sports, and traffic, sometimes before we can even get it live on the air, make sure you like our award-winning Kutztown University Radio Facebook page or on Twitter at KU Radio. From KUR News, I'm Mike Regensberger.
Any views or opinions expressed on KUR are not necessarily those of Kutztown University, Kutztown University Student Government, Kutztown University Student Services Incorporated, KUR staff and management, or other affiliated organizations.
7:05 right here in the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio. And it is time to give my top 5 impressions around the NFL this week. As I mentioned earlier, it was a very dramatic week, too, in the NFL. Not just, when it comes to the Eagles game or other things that happened around the league, but with some of the games this past week that happened. Now, number 5 was the Thursday night football game with the Baltimore Ravens. In the midst of, Ray Rice, that situation and everything that's been going on there, they hold the Steelers to only 6 points for a blowout win on Thursday night football. That was a game I called last week. It was one of my pressure picks. Tough, a tight division game, but I didn't expect the Ravens to lay a beat down on the Steelers like that. I mean, the Steelers couldn't move the ball against the Ravens, and Ravens held them to only 6 points, and they prevent themselves from being one of those teams that get off to an 0-2 start. So meanwhile, they're now 1-1 along with the Pittsburgh Steelers. In the AFC North there. So that was number 5. Number 4 is the Bears rally to a late comeback win over the 49ers on Sunday Night Football. The 49ers were trying to put this game away, and the Bears wouldn't let them. And then the Bears just come back and score all these unanswered points. The Bears were down 20-0. They couldn't do anything the entire first half, and they just put on a big comeback. Colin Kaepernick, they pick him off 3 times late in the game. Some might say he looked like Colin Kaepernick out there instead of I don't know, but anyhow, Bears get away with a big win there, and coming off of a Week 1 disappointing loss to the Buffalo Bills, the Bears would not let themselves start out 0-2 as well. So that's that. Meanwhile, the 49ers are 1-1 in their division. Number 3 is the Cleveland Browns shocked the New Orleans Saints, and the Saints, of all teams, start off 0-2 in this league. I mean, again, the Browns of all teams. I mean, on a late Billy Cundiff field goal, Saints are 0-2 and at the bottom of the NFC South. I find it hard. Well, I guess along with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but nevertheless, the Falcons beat them last week, and they're 1-1, and the Panthers are 2-0. So it's a bit of an uphill battle right now for the New Orleans Saints. Number 2 is the Buffalo Bills, starting off 2-0, beating the Miami Dolphins, who of course beat the Patriots in Week 1, upset the Patriots, and made a big comeback against them. Here, Buffalo they just handle Miami pretty easily here, and Buffalo is at the top of the AFC East division right now at 2-0. So meanwhile, you got everybody else in that division at 1-1. So big statement by the Buffalo Bills. That was number 2, and number 1 is the San Diego Chargers beating the Seattle Seahawks. Phillip Rivers, 3 touchdown passes to Antonio Gates. I mean, Antonio Gates, the guy still has it, and some suggested that maybe the Chargers just match up well against this Seattle Seahawks defense. Then again, though, you wonder, as good as the Seattle Seahawks defense is and all the talent they have, you wonder how anybody would match up well against them. But here the Chargers win handedly at home. It wasn't in Seattle, so, I guess, you don't get too crazy. But nevertheless, it was a bit of a wake-up call for the, Seattle Seahawks, maybe a little bit. I mean, Seahawks haven't lost since, I think, since being beat by Arizona late last season, the regular season. So, that was obviously, Seahawks aren't going to go 16-0. I mean, you don't expect anybody to go 16-0, but of the 3 or 4 games that they would lose this year, the Chargers, that's one of them, and I think the Chargers, are a wild card team this year as it is. So, impressive win by the San Diego Chargers. Kind of doing what Aaron Rodgers couldn't do in that first Week 1 matchup. So there you go. There's that top 5 impressions around the NFL, and I guess if you want, obviously you could factor in the Eagles win in there, but I don't factor. We keep it going around the NFL in this segment of the show. So, but nevertheless, a big win for the Philadelphia Eagles this past week. They again taking advantage of. Maybe they benefited from some of these bad calls that the officials made or missed calls. Also you got to note that the Eagles they committed a lot of they did get called for a lot of penalties as it is. And especially in the first half, Andrew Luck, with his hard counts, as they were saying. Really catching the Eagles' defensive line off guard, and catching them off sides a couple of times. There were some pass interference or holding calls against the Eagles secondary. So the Eagles did they committed a lot of penalties in this game. They weren't very disciplined, and yet I guess they didn't shoot themselves in the foot too badly. Again, first half, I don't know what was happening in the red zone. They were unable to put a decent amount of points. They left points on the board in this game, really. Receivers dropping balls. Riley Cooper dropped one that, a good receiver makes a catch. Selleck dropped a touchdown pass. Macklin dropped one. He had one where, that was intercepted over him that he could have he could have maybe hauled in better. I don't know, or maybe at least he could have just batted down. I don't know, to maybe prevent an interception from happening there. But Fall's looking decent. Definitely a step above, a nice step above that bad start against Jacksonville that he had. And of course, the Eagles, they're going to host the Washington Redskins this week. Now, from what I've heard, is that Deshaun Jackson will likely suit up to play against the Eagles this week. Well, let's see if maybe I can get an update here on NFL.com. I mean, he went down hard on his elbow. It looked like and this was not long after RG3. And I don't know, Fleming, if you saw this play, but I was watching this game. It was one of these plays where RG3 didn't even get hurt by getting wrecked by J.J. Watt or something like he does sometimes, and he just gets, he gets knocked down hard or whatever. No, he was running to the sideline, and I guess it looked like he rolled his ankle or whatever. I don't know, but it sounds like this is a major injury that he dislocates his ankle, and I guess he's going to undergo some more tests here. As I read this on NFLnetwork.com. Now, of course, the next play, that brings out Kirk Cousins in the first play. He throws a touchdown pass, and I think his first dozen passes or whatever were all completions. So I mean, he was really tearing apart the Jacksonville Jaguars defense. And again, I mean, this was basically without Deshaun Jackson the rest of the game because Jackson got hurt not long after that. Pierre Garçon actually had a pedestrian day, so I mean, Kirk Cousins was throwing to a lot of these other receivers that they have, and that were having, they were having bigger days than the Deshaun Jacksons of the world and Pierre Garçon. So I mean, you wonder coming in how this Eagles defense handles this Redskins attack now led by Kirk Cousins. Now I think it was inevitable at some point that Kirk Cousins was going to be in for Robert Griffin III, and now RG3 though, I mean, he could be out for the season here. I guess I read that. Well, let's see. Ian Rappaport reports that per two sources informed of Griffin's injury that the signal caller dislocated his ankle. He will undergo further tests. Jay Gruden confirmed the news at the post-game conference. He suffered an AC joint sprain. I'm sorry, that's Jackson. Jackson suffered an AC joint sprain, and he stayed a day. So he could very well play, but it sounds like they hope maybe RG3 can play maybe later in the season, but I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if they really want to do that. I mean, if Kirk Cousins plays, decent, now I don't know if it's, they'll play decent enough to win the division and shock the Philadelphia Eagles down the road in the season. But I don't think there's a big drop off here. I mean, from RG3 to Kirk Cousins. I mean, as far as backup quarterbacks goes in the league, I mean, Redskins have one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league as far as Kirk Cousins is concerned. So, I don't think that if you're a Redskin fan, I don't think oh man, season over here. RG3 might not even play the rest of the year. I don't think it's a season over situation here. I don't know. I mean, the Eagles, hopefully they don't take them lightly in this first division game because coming off that big win against the Colts Monday night, I see this game with the Redskins being competitive. Actually, I don't see a a big one-sided game here. And I think, Kirk Cousins, might surprise the Eagles defense a little bit as we look forward to that game. And, with or without Deshaun Jackson, I don't know. I mean, again, he seemed pretty fine against the Jaguars, putting up all kinds of points on the board, throwing to receivers other than Pierre Garçon. So, it's really interesting. And of course, they got Alfred Morris, who, he's looking like he's going to have quite a season, and that, the Redskins are going to rely on him. So, yeah, I mean, obviously it's, an interesting game we have on our hands as we look towards that game. All right, now 610-683-4058 is the way to get in. There's still more to come on this show. I know there's some people that request that they hear more audio from, who is it? Jack. We don't have the last name of the guy, but the guy last week that we played one of his messages that Mike Regensberger gets from, station manager, gets in his email from Jack, who likes to listen to, KUR at all times of day, it seems. And, he leaves messages and Mike Regensberger gets them. So I just got Fleming over there is texting me. Is his name Jack Morrow? I couldn't remember the last name. You think it's, but yeah, you go with Jack Morrow. Is that?
Yeah, that rings a familiar bell when Mike told us.
Yeah, I tend to forget names easily, so I guess I just remembered the Jack part of it, and so yeah, I'll go through that. I'll go back to that in my email and maybe play another little message from him that I haven't heard before. I'd rather play a message that I haven't heard from before and that nobody else has heard, so I can get the full effect of it, I guess you could say. But yeah, we'll get to that later, as well as pressure picks for the upcoming week. We got to pick more fantasy players, and I have audio here actually of the Chip Kelly press conference earlier today after beating the Colts. So obviously we can take a listen in on that. So we got all that coming up right here on the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio.
Hey, dudes! We are Pack 183. You're listening to KUR. Hey, dudes! Cool dudes!
It's never too early to start thinking about paying college tuition. Financial help is available. I'm State Senator Judy Schwank with the Pennsylvania Moment. The Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency, or FIA, offers many kinds of scholarships, grants, and loans. For more information, log on to FIA.org or call 1-800-233-0557. I'm State Senator Judy Schwank with the Pennsylvania Moment.
It is 7:21 right here on the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio. I come back with this classic Pink Floyd song because I gotta point out, I don't know who has followed this, but apparently yesterday on eBay, the receipt from last week when LaShawn McCoy only left in his party at this burger joint, left only a 20-cent tip. That was that was a story last week. Apparently the receipt for that sold for on eBay for over $100,000.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding. That's for that receipt. I mean, that's wow. But anyhow, I mean, last week, I mean, LaShawn McCoy said that was he. I guess they did that as a statement. I heard audio of it, but we don't need to get it up or anything. I don't. No need in wasting time digging for that. But yeah, I mean, just to kind of close that thought out. I mean, as far as making a statement, I mean, what do you got to go and make a statement like that for? I mean, if you have a problem with the service, I mean, you get the manager, and apparently they never talked to the manager at all or whatever if there was any kind of problem that was worthy of, some severe problem that would lead them to only tipping 20 cents to that server. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just hard to believe that a guy who makes 8 figures a year and would only tip 20%. But I heard I was listening to him yesterday. There's something that's being charged against LaShawn McCoy that I guess is going to be looked into. A civil lawsuit that I heard from Mike Missinelli yesterday. Yes, on his show about an incident in December of 2012 when he threw threw this lady off a bus, and I don't know, him and his bouncer, his security guard or whatever, and I don't know. There's details that supposedly held her to the ground and poured Hawaiian punch on her. I don't know. I mean, nothing's official yet, but there's right now there's I guess that's getting looked into, and who knows, maybe we'll have more to discuss on that next week here in the Tyler Werner Show. But so obviously look at that. But before we move any further, let's get to this Chip Kelly press conference earlier today. Listen to thoughts of what he had last night against the Indianapolis Colts. So let's listen into some of that.
How's your flight back?
Early. How are you?
I'm good. You going to sleep? We're good to go.
So you got to look at the game again, I hope.
Let's try to be friendly here. Ask it, how did you got any sleep?
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. So you got to see the game again. With Nick and the wide receivers, what do you see there? There's a lot of targets and not a lot of catches through 2 games.
Yeah, we had a few drops at the wideout spot. We also had a couple balls that probably could have been placed a little bit better. So, they got to come up with the catches, and we got to place the ball a little bit better.
George in particular has had a couple drops. Is that just normal growing pains for a rookie, or is that something he's really got to clean up?
No, I just think he did it. You watch his first game when he came out against Chicago. He had a couple drops, and then bounced back big in the second preseason game against the Patriots. So some of it's just concentration, fingers, tips, eyes to the catch. Make sure you're tucking it away. Just little fundamental things, but not anything that we're concerned about.
Are defenses giving Foles different looks than it did last year, or what are you seeing that's going
I
wrong
think
when it does go wrong?
people are pretty straightforward in terms of what they've played us in the first 2 games. So, we got a lot more zone against in the Jacksonville game, but that's kind of their MO. I think we saw predominantly a 4-down nickel front the entire game against Indianapolis. They did a good job of mixing up man and zone, but it was nothing that we haven't seen before.
Is it just fundamental stuff then when he is misfiring?
It's a lot of things. I mean, there's a rush. Sometimes he doesn't have a chance to set his feet, so he gets pushed off his mark a little bit. So it's always a combination of there's not just one thing. If there's one thing, and then it's easily correctable. But if there's not just one thing, you got to kind of work on everything. So sometimes the pocket gets collapsed a little bit, and they get walked back into him. Sometimes he needs to step up a little bit when it's a wide outside rush. There's a lot of combinations in those things. So
what do you think it says when guys like Nick and LaShawn and Macklin all say, we could be playing better and stuff, and yet you guys are still leading the league and, points scored and offense and all that?
I think they're very honest in their assessments, and they understand that they can improve. So it's, no one should be patting themselves on the back in anywhere. That, we're fortunate to be 2-0. We've done a great job of coming back in both games, but there's a lot of work in every aspect of the game that we need to work on. So and that's a great thing about this group. They understand that.
As we watched the last 5 minutes of the game from the interception on, what stood out to you in particular about that rally there?
I don't think anything stood out in particular. It's just kind of what we trained to do and how we played is what we expect our guys to play like. I think they have a good sense and understanding of what we're trying to get accomplished, and they don't panic in those situations, because we've tried to, as a staff, to put them in those situations from a training standpoint so that they've been through that before. So, it's really just go back to your preparation. And we say it all the time, is no one rises to the occasion. You always sink to your level of training, and, that's how we trained. And you heard our guys talking about it after the game. This is no different than period 22 on a Wednesday or a Thursday for us. So,
how does the addition of Jenkins kind of manifest itself on film? What do you see from them? You guys sounder back there?
Yeah, I think obviously there's a little bit more. There's a guy back there making the calls and being distinct in terms of getting everybody set back there. But he always seems to be a knack for making big plays. Came up huge again last night. Is around the ball, made had a couple pass breakups, tackles. Just what we expected when we got him here. We thought he was obviously our top target, and I think it's paying off for us right now.
What has Zach Ertz done in terms of being such a viable option downfield as a tight end?
I just think there's a lot of matchup things when you have Zach. So if you do choose to play man, you have to man everybody. You just can't man the two outside receivers. So if you do, I think our inside receivers, himself and the running backs coming out of the backfield, become matchup problems too. So the quarterback always in man situations is trying to find his best matchup. So I think he's got some unique qualities that he's tough for a linebacker to cover, but he's also hard for a DB to cover because he's 6'5". So there's a kind of a catch-22 in terms of how you're going to defend him.
To Zach's question, do you think when the defense 2 weeks in a row seems to be playing better as the game goes on towards the end, you took a quarterback famous for his end of the game heroics and 3 and out of him. Do you think that's as much conditioning as adjustments at halftime?
I think it's a combination of everything. I think there's a feeling out process how people are going to play you. They ran the ball, I think, a little bit more than we thought they were going to run the ball in the first half. So you got to make some adjustments from that standpoint. But I also think our players, as the course of the game went along, you could see them growing, their confidence growing, and getting an understanding of what we're trying to do. So I think it's a combination of all those things.
After the game, LaShawn said he needs to get going. What goes into that? What does he need to do to have the production that he had last year?
I think rating his production against last year is meaningless in my opinion, because we're not trying to win rushing titles. We're trying to win football games. So I think he's always a very, very harsh critic of himself, which is a very admirable quality. I think that's one thing that pushes him. That's why he trains so hard in this off season. But we're not. Our standards is trying to win every football game each week, and that's it. So he's still getting I think he had 20-plus touches yesterday again. He's sometimes things are geared to take him away. If they're geared to take him away, then other guys have to make plays. So, we have enough weapons around LaShawn where you have to pick your poison, so to speak, in terms of who you're going to defend. And people are kind of honed in on him, and rightly so. But now the other guys, it opens the field up for some of the other guys. So some of our big plays have all occurred on play-action passes. There's a reason for that. If you're going to gang up on the run game, then we should have guys open and play-action pass. So I think he's doing a good job. He's training real well, and it just depends on how people are going to defend us on a week-to-week basis. So.
What kind of intel did you have on Darren Sproles before you guys traded him? Because you've talked a lot about intel in terms of you've talked a lot about his work ethic and how many.
It's like a spy movie, or? We watched game film and just studied him, and obviously,
I'm talking about his personality and his work ethic and that kind of stuff. Did you guys have any idea that he was that?
Well, I knew about his work ethic. I think that's kind of when you just talk to coaches that dealt with him. I know North Turner raved about him when he was with the Chargers, so you knew for the type of work ethic and person he was. You listen to some of the reports about everybody loving him as a teammate and all that. So, you go back to the background stuff that the scouts did when he was coming out of college at Kansas State and what they had to say about him, and you read all those reports. So, it's the same general kind of intel that we have for any free agent. You're trying to just do your research and find out about him. So,
what do you know about?
All right, so that was Chip Kelly earlier today. He pointed out early in that whole interview that about Nick Foles and having to step up and everything. And last week you saw him under pressure, and he just he wouldn't get rid of the ball too much. But I think Foles here, and I guess I didn't even give credit yet to the offensive line, despite being down a couple of key guys here. Got to give some credit to the offensive line. Foles, he was hurried a couple times, but overall this offensive line was, pretty top notch. And, Foles was, now I guess, to be fair, obviously the Colts were missing Robert Mathis this game, and well, they're going to miss him for the rest of the season, I'm sure. And outside of him, this Colts defense isn't ferocious or anything, and the Eagles are certainly going to see some, much more ferocious defenses than this defense, at various points in the season. But, obviously, from Foles' standpoint, he definitely looked better here.
Let's make some noise, come on!
Yeah, that's right. And Foles not, he had that one interception, although, I don't totally, put it on Foles in that situation. That was one that maybe Macklin could have caught better, or I don't know. It was a great, let's put it this way, it was a great play by the Colts cornerback in that situation. Other than that, Foles, he was missing some throws here and there, but overall he was pretty decent. He could have had 5 touchdowns this game. There were a couple of key drops here. Again, going back to the Riley Cooper one, that was put in a good place, but Riley Cooper, went right off his hands. He couldn't make the catch. And amongst the other drops that happened. Now, hopefully they can. Hopefully against the Redskins, they can straighten out this. The struggles that they had. Early on in this game against the Colts in the red zone. They had to settle for 2 field goals, and of course, they had to settle for a third, but of course that one was missed by Kobe Parkey. A bit of a scare he gave us there, but later on in the game he bounced back and made that key game-winning field goal. Not once but twice, because of course the kicker was ice there, and the Colts Colts had to make him set it up again for another field goal try, and fortunately he didn't choke on the second one there, so at least it's not, Alex Henry was missing multiple field goals like that. And just, his confidence just seemed to totally erode, which is why fortunately they got Kobe Parkey in the first place. So that was good. Again, the offensive line protecting Nick Foles, definitely a good sign there. Even down a couple of guys. But, obviously the run, I don't know, the run blocking could have been better at times. There were some plays where it seemed as though, either Todd Harriman's went the wrong way to block it, and, there's like a 3rd and 1, I remember, where Darren Sproles just got smothered, and, there were some other plays where LaShawn McCoy was getting smothered, which, there's a history of that sometimes, but, every now and then he gets out of those situations, and he, makes a big play, or even just, gets out of a situation and only even gets a few yards, but, so I don't know, there was obviously some points left on the board, I think, in this game, not to take anything away from the Colts or anything, because, the Colts played pretty well for much of this game, but, the Eagles, I think, what was the stat that they threw up there? I think it was that no team, in their first 2 games of the season or whatever, the opening 2 games, had been down by 2 touchdowns at halftime and then come back to win both games. Now, of course, they were down 17-0 last week against Jacksonville. And then, obviously, of course, they came back and they scored 34 unanswered points on that game. And here, they were down 20-6 at halftime. They came back to tie it up. Indianapolis retook the lead. And then, of course, the Eagles would come back and tie it up. The game was in the Colts' hands once again. After the Eagles tied it up. Of course, coming off of that, that missed call that many would say. The whole, the holding, Brandon Boykin holding, who was it, T.Y. Hilton, or was it Reggie Wayne? and basically getting away with it. Then once again, I mean, with like 3 minutes left, I mean, Andrew Luck and the Colts, they had the game in their control, really. I mean, they could drive the ball down the field, wear down the clock, kick a field goal, whatever, like the Eagles would end up doing. And but the defense coming up big in that final drive, the Colts run the ball the first 2 plays on that drive as if they were, they wanted to move the ball down the field, maybe run off some clock, because they were having their way on the ground in this game, certainly. So then it was like 3rd and 5, and Andrew Luck goes back to pass, but the Eagles pressure him. The Eagles didn't sack him all night. But yet they pressured him at times, like this on this play that was that forced a key incompletion, and here Andrew Luck under the pressure kind of just throws it into the ground, and where nobody's there to catch it, and they force the Colts to punt. So I mean, the defense really showing up when they need to show up late in that game. And they end this this history or I guess streak of Andrew Luck always coming back with a win after a loss in his as he's now in his 3rd year in his career. So the Eagles kind of making a couple points of history here in this game. So yeah, I mean so that's really that. And now we're coming into the last segment, last 15 minutes or so of this show. Obviously, we got to, Fleming and I, we got to pick the rest of our fantasy players, pressure picks of the week, and I guess also we got to send off with a little bit of audio from Jack Morrow, who hopefully we can get on the phone line sooner or later on this show at some point. 610-683-4058, or at Tyler Werner Show on Twitter, or at Facebook.com on Facebook. We'll be right back after this.
It's almost time for you to discover This Way Out. Hi, I'm coordinating producer Greg Gordon, inviting you to tune in to This Way Out, the international gay and lesbian radio magazine, here on Kutztown University Radio, 1670 AM.
1 to 1:30 on Thursdays here on the Radio Voice, KUR.
Looking for exceptional research and fieldwork opportunities? The Chincoteague Bay Field Station is an environmental education facility located on the eastern shore of Virginia. We offer a variety of college courses each summer, ranging from geology and biology to literature and marine science. For years, Kutztown University students have come to the field station to participate in cutting-edge research and gain practical experiences that help them secure a job in their field. Find out how you can get involved today at cbfieldstation.org. That's cbfieldstation.org.
Out of a 14-point second half ball, week 1, week 2,
7:42 on the Tyler Werner Show right here in Kutztown Radio. And there it was, the game-winning field goal coming out to that, coming out of a 2-0, a 2-0 record here for the Philadelphia Eagles, coming out of the chute. Only one of 7 teams in the league right now with 2-0 records. So obviously that good week to be an Eagles fan, obviously, and obviously an impressive showing. Eagles taking advantage in this game when they needed to, and I didn't necessarily expect that. So good week to be an Eagles fan, obviously. All right, now let's get back to our on-air fantasy picks, since that's obviously one of the things left on the list to do today. Now I would you picked you had the last pick first, so now I have my pick. Now let's see. I'm trying to think what position to go here. I took last week. I took Gronkowski as my, or no, I didn't take Gronkowski. I took Jimmy Graham. I was thinking of going Gronkowski this week, but I think I'm gonna go. I think Zach Ertz is gonna, maybe get a touchdown again. This game. I mean, against the Redskins. I feel like this week I gotta have an Eagle on my roster. They host the Redskins at home, and I think Ertz is gonna, maybe get a touchdown or two in this game. If not, maybe break 100 yards, etc. So there's my tight end pick. I'll go Eagles, and I'll go Zach Ertz.
All right, I was also thinking about Gronk, but I'm looking at more Jimmy Graham right now.
Yeah, that and Gronk's still recovering.
Yeah,
slowly, from his injury. So yeah, Jimmy Graham, of course. Drew Brees, the quarterback on my team, will be the guy throwing to Jimmy Graham. So have a bit of an interesting dynamic there. So now you pick the next position and player first.
I'm going to pick the second wide receiver. And just to refresh me, who you have already?
I have Calvin Johnson, who you picked last week.
Okay, and I have Jordy Nelson.
You have Jordy
here.
Nelson.
So, let's see, I'll go... I have no idea. Let's go Reggie Wayne.
Colts in a bounce-back week?
Yeah, I'm trusting him.
Yeah, I mean they play the Jaguars. I mean, I don't know. Maybe after that second half beatdown that the Eagles put on them last week, maybe they just I don't know, took their soul away or something, because they really came out flat against the Redskins defensively. So yeah, and the Colts, I don't think they're going to start 0-3. So I would expect a big week here for that. So. See, that's probably a good pick. Now I got to pick my second wide receiver. Let me look around the board here and see who I can pick. You know what? I'm gonna go Julio Jones on the Falcons. Now they got the Buccaneers coming into town, and I would think the Falcons are gonna bounce back as well. So yeah, I'll go Julio Jones here for my second wide receiver pick. And now,
if I may, Tyler, just real quick, it says here that Julio Jones is probable.
Is he?
Yeah,
Probable.
I got a big giant red P right next to his name here.
Well,
so, do you want to make a backup pick just in case?
I would think. Well, you know what? I can always text you, and if something goes wrong.
Okay.
And make a change if necessary. I don't know. I'm looking at the other matchups, and I don't know who else I'd want to have, but yeah, unless like he pulls like an AJ Green like the on Bengals last week or something, then I think Julio. I think I'll be fine with Julio Jones. So yeah, we'll go with Julio Jones there. And now on to, for me, I'll pick running back next. I'm not gonna pick a kicker before a running back, so I'll go running back next. I can't, obviously I took Marshawn Lynch last week, so I can't take him. Chiefs lost what's his name? I can't even think of right now. So you can't take, I could have taken him, but he's not playing this week. You know what? I'm gonna go Darren Sproles here. I'm gonna go another Eagle, and just the way they're using Sproles in this passing game, he's helping putting points on the board. He's racking up yards. I'm not gonna expect a lot of rushing yards from Sproles, but just the way he's using the passing game, I'm gonna go with Sproles. And considering that, he seems to be getting more production than LaShawn McCoy thus far, maybe because teams are, kind of geared on McCoy. I'm going to go with another Eagle gonna put another Eagle on my roster this week and go Darren Sproles at running back.
All right, so that leaves me with my running back pick. I think I'm going to go pull a homer move here and go Chris Johnson for the Jets.
Homer move. All right. Now the Jets, who do they have this week? Let's see.
They're facing the Bears on Monday night.
Monday Night Football. They got the Bears at home. All right, we'll see. We'll see what Chris Johnson can do against the Bears defense. And that leaves us with kicker, who you get to pick first.
Last week I had Billy Cundiff, and I think I'm going to go Matt Bryant this week.
All right, Matt Bryant. That's that's a good. That's actually who I had last week. He got one. He got one field goal, which was, I guess, key for me. It helped. It made a difference, certainly, because we had a close first game here. Now for me, as far as field goal kickers go, I'm gonna go Steven Gostkowski from the Patriots. They're hosting the Raiders. I think no matter how you look at it, they're gonna be in field goal range a lot. In the red zone, whatever. So they're gonna move the football against Oakland. So yeah, I'll go Gostkowski from the Patriots, and we'll see, I guess, how many points he can put up. So yeah, there you have it. The Fleming roster this week: quarterback Peyton Manning, running back Chris Johnson, wide receivers Jordy Nelson and Reggie Wayne, tight end Jimmy Graham, Patriots defense, kicker Matt Bryant, and the Werner roster: QB Drew Brees, running back Darren Sproles, wide receivers Calvin Johnson and Julio Jones, tight end Zach Ertz, and the Bengals defense, and then Steven Gostkowski as the kicker for my team. So yeah, there we go. Save that document, as you always got to do. Now let's get, before I forget, let's get some of this Jack Morrow audio again. Again, this voicemail, it's totally random, so I've never heard it before, so minute and 5 seconds. Let's fire it up and see what in this voicemail what Jack Morrow has to say, and again, hopefully, if you're listening out there, Jack, and you can recognize yourself on the radio here, we're looking for you to call in this station, particularly during this show on Tuesdays from 6 to 8 p.m. And maybe talk some maybe talk some KU Bears football after they came off a big win this week or whatever. So let's open this.
Good morning. It's football time, I suppose. College football. 2014 NCAA college football.
Let's make some noise, come on!
In this area, the Pennsylvania Athletic Conference features Kutztown versus Muhlenberg. Then it's Moravian versus Lehigh. Lehigh versus Lafayette. And so on and so forth at Lib. Or it's the Ivy League. It's Penn versus Princeton, Harvard versus Yale, Yale versus Columbia, and so it goes. And if that isn't so, you can mark my words. So says your old friend Jackie here, Jack Morrow, and that's me. Oh, boy. Well, hope you have a good football season with your team. Don't be a dumb bunny. Bye.
Okay.
All right, yeah. So yeah, it was very, I guess pretty informational there. It sounded like, I don't know if you could make this out in the back, but it sounded like he had some, he had like a record, some old record player in the background. Like he had some, in the middle of like a Three Stooges episode or something in the background. I don't know what that was, but I don't know, but yeah, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Jack Morrow, talking a little football, and I just I did mention before I got into that soundbite how the the KU Bears football team, they took on Indiana University of Pennsylvania this past week, and they laid a big beat down. What was it, 44-7 or something on nationally ranked IUP, and nobody expect I guess that was a big upset. Really, I mean, coming off of that first loss against Slippery Rock, last week. Slippery Rock, a tough team. Of course, I mentioned last week how the day after last week's Tyler Werner Show, I interviewed the head coach and Sam Dugan of the KU Bears football team, and on KU TV's Between the Lines, and asked them how they were going to bounce back and this and that. And if you tune into Between the Lines this week, on the second episode of the fall season here, fall semester, you'll find you'll find around the campus. One of my duties is to interview, do like these random on the spot 1 or 2 minute interviews with people on campus, and we happened to this week get an offensive tackle from the Pete Finnegan. I remember his name there, for the KU Bears football team. So yeah, they had an impressive win over them. So yeah, I mean, how about that? Now, before we close the show down, I guess I have to get to my pressure picks of the week here. Last week, starting this with the NFL season. I got to pick 3 games that could go either way. Now, let's see what. Now, okay, here's one to start off. The Chargers at the Buffalo Bills. I mean, the Bills are 2-0. It's at Buffalo. Chargers got to fly, a bit of a long way there. Although I think the Chargers are on to something, and I think the Bills are going to lose their first game of the season here. Strong as they've looked, I think the Chargers are coming off a big win, and I think on a $60+ check at a Philadelphia burger joint Monday, prompting the restaurant to post a photo of this check on Facebook to publicly shame the city's NFL star. I mean, LaShawn McCoy I don't know. I don't know. I guess he's known for some stuff like this. But I mean, I don't know. Is the service ever really that bad that you only give a 20-cent tip? I don't know. A little rough over there, I would think, but so that's that. I mean, a 20-cent tip on a $61 check. I mean, apparently the service wasn't that bad or anything. I mean, and I guess I guess the manager talked to him or whatever, but apparently LaShawn McCoy and his group were loud and rowdy apparently, but they were cooperative with him, I guess, and I don't know, but so I guess you got that as far as some Eagles news there. Now, before we run out of time, I think we got to get back to these fantasy selections. We got 4 picks to make here, and now we picked 3. Fleming, you picked the first pick. I picked the second, and then you picked the third. So now it'll be my chance to pick a position, next player here for our draft. Looking at this schedule, I'm gonna go to tight end, and I'm gonna pick from the Saints, Jimmy Graham. They're going on to take on Cleveland this week, and I think after that frustrating loss to the Atlanta Falcons, I think they're going to bounce back and put up a lot of points this week against the Browns, and I think Jimmy Graham will be a big part of that. So now you got your tight end selection, Fleming.
All right, I'm going to have to go with Julius Thomas. He's facing Kansas City at Denver this week, so I think the hometown crowd will boost him up a little bit.
All right. Obviously, you got Peyton Manning there, so should be a pretty productive selection there. Now, next pick, you get to pick the position and the player first.
All right, let's do wide receivers again. I'm going to go with Demaryius Thomas. Also Denver at Kansas City with Peyton Manning, as you said. I think it's going to be a good game for him as well.
All right, so got some Denver Broncos receiving production there. All right, so that leaves me with my second wide receiver pick. I took A.J. Green earlier. So I got to think, who else could I pick out of this crop of teams to have a big week? So I'm looking down here. Let's see. I would hate to, I might have to go another Indianapolis Colts player here. But I mean, playing the Eagles at home. I'm going to have to go Reggie Wayne, who I think can put up a decent amount of points this week. Between yards and maybe getting a touchdown or two on this Eagles secondary. I'm going to go with Reggie Wayne.